will learn that. With the Steppenwolf, the very first show that I ever did was called The Bluest Eye. And we ended up taking it off Broadway to New York. And there was a gentleman, this is on tape, this is terrible, I'm telling secrets. But there was a gentleman who was a part of the cast originally, and he was fantastic. He was fantastic. And when we were told that we were taking the show to New York, we assumed that everybody was gonna go, but everybody didn't go. This one gentleman was not asked to go to the production, and I felt really bad about it because I really loved his performance. But the issue was he had a problem with being on time. He had a problem with being on time, and when he was approached about it, he wasn't, sort of submissive and like, hey, I know I have a problem. But it was more like, hey, yeah, I know I have a problem. And so people don't want to work with that. One of the things that you learn in the business is that people who hire you, directors, producers, they want to work with somebody who's enjoyable to work with. So your attitude when you take notes, if you're on time, your work ethic, if you're supposed to be off book by a certain time, if you come to the process with creative ideas. Sometimes you will go to work and you will work with a director who doesn't want you to have your own ideas. They want you to be malleable. They have a vision that they have in mind, and they want you to be able to bring that vision into fruition. Sometimes you have a director who feels like, why do I have to tell you every single thing? My job is to stand out here and to tell you where to move. Your job is to act. So you just have to be very malleable. Whatever the job calls for, you need to be able to handle it with a bright attitude. And I think that will open a lot of doors for you, because believe it or not, you might not be able to see it when you first start working, but the casting director at my theater has relationships with other theaters. So I will never forget, okay, if I tell I'm ashamed to admit this, but if I tell a bad story about myself, I remember working for a theater and the director telling me that they were told by somebody else who had worked with me not to work with me because I was very difficult. I was very shocked to hear this. If I tell you more about this story, I had a director who, in my opinion, was not very successful in helping me to understand what specifically she wanted. And what ended up happening was that we were about to open, and I felt terrible about my work. I felt terrible about my work, and I felt like my director's feeling about my feeling was, yeah, you're right, it's terrible. As opposed to, okay, what can we do to solve it? Maybe I'm not communicating clearly enough. And it was only a 3-person play. And I got into an argument with one of my fellow actors one day, and he said to me, why do you care so much? It's very clear that the director has given up on us. Our sentiment was that she felt that we weren't capable of bringing the show to life that she wanted. And so his opinion was, why do you care? If she doesn't care, why do you care? And my feeling was, when I go out on the stage, the people see me. My name is written in the program. This is an example of my work and what I'm capable of. If it's going to be crap, then I don't want to be a part of it. So what happened is one day we were rehearsing in our tech rehearsal, and I was trying to do a note that she had given to me, and then the actor, my fellow actor, lashed out and said to me, you're not even doing it right. You're not, and then I thought, oh my God, if my work is so bad that my fellow actor has to direct me, then this is terrible. So I walked out, and my director said, it's not your fault that you haven't been through what the person in the play has been through and you don't get it. And I thought, that's the best that you can say to me? So I said to her, you hired me for the job, and I'm sorry that I'm not doing what you want me to do. but I have to say, quite honestly, I don't understand what it is that you want me to do. And furthermore, I have an ego just like everybody else, and I don't want to present something that's crap. So basically, we ended up having to come to an agreement about how to proceed and how to get the best performance that she felt I was capable of. I later learned from a professor of mine at DePaul University. She said, Alana, you were in a situation that you should not be in. The job of a director is to be able to explain clearly to you what it is that they want. And it is their job to try their best to find a language that you both can work inside of. So basically, the way that I felt was that the director was like, hey, I really, really want you to go to Disneyland. And I felt like, hey, I want to go to Disneyland too. But I don't have the directions. I don't know if I'm supposed to take I-95. I don't know. And so I'm trying, and everything that I'm trying, you're telling me it doesn't work. And so I need you to tell me something else to try to get closer to where you want me to be. So anyhow, I say all this to say the person who was stage managing the show is the person who went to the other theater and said, don't work with her, she's difficult. I later I ended up, the director hired me anyway. We are friends to this very day. He sends me gifts for my birthdays. And it turned out to be a really wonderful relationship. And I thank God that he gave me the chance to show what type of actor that I am, in spite of being told by somebody else, don't work with her. So everything that I've learned, I'm willing to share with anybody else. Do your best in the job that you have, because you never know what job it can lead to. You never know what you may cut off from yourself if you treat it like it's nothing. Okay, so I know I talked a lot, sorry. Is there another question?
Alana, could you talk a little bit about your process in getting ready to play Gertrude in Hamlet?
Yes.
We have a class here that just did a whole big Shakespeare project.
Okay, so interestingly enough, I just did a workshop at Steppenwolf with a gentleman who, his name is Rob Clare. He's English. And he worked a great deal with the Royal Shakespeare Theatre Company in England. And he said the way that you approach Shakespeare is the way that you approach any play. You have to do your homework, so which is very true. So what I do is I read the play, and I basically create, you create like a character biography for yourself. You find out like what's your history, you find out what's your relationship to everybody in the play. You do as much detective work as you can. Even after you've done sort of a general biography for yourself and your relationship to people, then you go scene by scene. Then you go moment by moment. What history created this moment? You ask yourself, what are you there to do? Why are you talking to the person that you're talking to? What do you want from them? What does that person want from you? What don't you want to give away? What is at risk? What is at stake? And then once you do that, interestingly enough, what I got from this workshop, which I think is just really, really beautiful and true to the testament of an artist. An actor can take their work in a play and rehearse it the same way that a musician does. A lot of times I think musicians have a greater work ethic than actors do. But a musician will take a piece of music that they know the way that they're supposed to play it, but they'll take the music, if it's happy birthday to you, right? The musician will sit there all day flexing the happy birthday to you, but then they'll say happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, the variety of it. David Quiet used to always teach us, you rehearse, you rehearse, you rehearse, you rehearse, so that you can throw it away the moment you step on stage. And you can throw it away without fear, because you know for yourself that you've worked out a million ways that this can go. And the way that it will go today is the way that it will go based upon how I exchange with this person. Something that I may have rehearsed may be called forth in this moment, or maybe something new will be born. But a lot of times I think our fear comes from feeling like we don't know. But if you work hard enough to know that you can trust yourself to be in the moment, then it becomes less about a fear and more about fun, about the journey of the play today, making the same discovery over and over again. But that's how it stays fresh, and that's how you keep yourself from trying to play games with other actors on stage. I think actors do that because they get bored. It's like, I'm doing the same play every night. That's true, but it's not bored if it's moment to moment engagement. The very first year I was at DePaul, my professor would have us playing games with space. Oh my God, okay? So like you have a ball and you keep the ball in between you, now throw the ball. Okay, now at first it can be really frustrating, but it's only frustrating if you don't believe it's there. If you believe that it's there, you're actually engaged with something that you're affecting and it's affecting you. So the play becomes boring when you're no longer really engaged with the play, when you're no longer really listening to what your partner, as if you're hearing it for the first time. But if you're playing it as if, yep, I know what so-and-so's gonna say, and now it's time for my line. That's the problem. That's when it gets boring. So, yeah. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, how do you do as far as getting ready to play Gertrude?
Oh, getting ready for to play Gertrude. So basically just working with the language. For me, every actor learns their lines a different way, okay? I'll tell you a very quick story about our shared friend. Terrell and I have a friend by the name of Glenn, and we were both in Terrell's play in Chicago. So Glenn comes to my apartment at like 2-something in the morning. He's like, Alana, I have to learn these lines. Terrell had written a trilogy, 3 plays, and he was in all 3, and I was only in 2. And so the time to be off book was present, and he was the only person struggling, but he had the most work. So he comes to my house, I'm so sleepy, and he's like, Alana, I gotta learn these lines. I'm like, okay, let's go. So I'm on book for him, and I notice if the line is like, here we go today, he's like, here we go yesterday, here we go today, here we go today, here we go today. And then I realized, I said, wait a minute, Glenn, are you learning the lines right now? And he says, that's how I have to learn it. I said, absolutely not. Learn the lines. You can call me later and I will run them with you, but I am not gonna stay up with you 2 in the morning and read these lines with you. And it's just a different way of learning lines. The way that I learn my lines is that by myself, I have to repeat them. I learn them through repetition. I repeat them, and then I call up my friend and I say, hey, will you run lines with me? But I don't sit there with my friend and go, New World School of the Art to help us better assess, to help us better assess, to help us better assess. You're looking at the paper, sir. You don't know the line, you know? So, yes. So basically for Gertrude, in the repeating of the lines, there are so many questions that come about, right? So somebody give me a line from something that you're working on right now. Black people unite, okay? Black people unite. Black people unite. Black people unite. Why are black people not united? Black people unite. Unite is a word in the present, so we need to do it right now. What is different about now that is different than yesterday? So many questions arise from... Oh, thank you. So many questions arrive out of one line. And if you will play your monologue, your lines, if you will play the dialogue like it is actually music over and over in your head, so many questions come about. And this is why I say you can find yourself in the last week of performance and you will have a new question that will illuminate a new answer for you. And it will feel terrible because you will be like, oh my God, now I get it. I wish I had this on opening night. But if you play the music as much as you can before you start working, then you come to the table just fuller, and you feel like you can give the full performance that you want to give. You're always going to have the questions. If if every day, you're really thinking about it and you walk away from a scene and you're like, okay, so she says to me this, that, and the other. Why is she saying that to me? Sometimes you don't know. And you keep asking. And then maybe you have to ask a fellow actor. Maybe you ask a fellow actor, if I said this to you, what do you think this is about? As much as you can, ask the questions. And for me, that's where a lot of my homework gets done, is in the memorizing and learning the lines. While I'm learning the lines, I'm asking myself the question, why does the line exist? Because if you have a good playwright, if it's unnecessary, it's not in the play. So if it's in the play, that means it's important. So if it's important, you need to know why it's important. And here's the other thing. You can't leave it undone. You want to know why you can't leave it undone? Because if you don't know, the audience doesn't know. And trust me, I have figured this out, okay? I have figured this out from being in a rehearsal and my director saying to me, Alana, when you say this line, what do you mean by that? And then I have to say, actually, I don't know. Or I'm sitting in the audience and I'm watching my fellow actor and I go, oh yeah, he has no idea what that means. Do you know what I mean? So you have to leave nothing. What is the saying? Leave no rock Exactly. Everything has to be turned over before you go before an audience. I don't want to tell you what you have to do and what you shouldn't have to do, but I'm going to tell you it's not a good feeling. The feeling of not knowing is what creates the fear and the nervousness. So, any other questions? Yes.
What would you say? Hi, by the way, my name is Isela.
Very nice to meet you, Isela.
What would you say is the one thing that you have the most, that you struggle with the most?
Okay. As far as acting. Oh, wow. Okay. The thing that I struggle the most with. Well, struggle. Okay. When I feel like I absolutely have no clue who the person is. That's the most difficult. That is the most difficult. And to some degree, I want to say to some degree that always happens, right? Nobody literally knows the person that they're playing. But for example, if I have to play a woman who's Australian, I have no idea. And a lot of times, now I'm talking about me specifically as an artist. This is very particular to me. You are all very different artists, so you have different struggles. Me specifically, I learn a lot about who I'm playing by their culture. It's very important for me. For other people, it doesn't matter. But for me, it's a huge inclination into who that person is, because culture informs your perspective of the world. Culture informs how you express yourself in the world. And the reality is that when you pick up a play, it speaks to a specific culture in a specific time. So that's how I enter the thing. So if I feel like this is a culture that I have no entry point of reference for whatsoever, I struggle and I have to learn. Case in point, example. I recently played Natasha in Three Sisters in a Chekhov play, okay? Chekhov was very intimidating for me. I was like, I don't get it, I don't know, But I'm the person in the room. I've felt terrible about this in the past because I will ask. You sit down in the beginning of rehearsal process and you do table work. And if I don't know, if I hit a stumbling block and I can't figure it out, okay, well, what do you think this means? I'm always that person, and sometimes I feel bad about it. But there have been times that other actors have come to me and said, Alana, thank you for asking, because I had that same question, but I didn't want to ask. But I don't care. I'm going to ask because I feel like it's better to admit to this room that I don't know than to get out in front of an audience and not know. So this person, they're in Russia, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, so what is the cultural significance of this action? Because a lot of times why American audiences don't understand Chekhov is because we don't understand the cultural reality of the time, the history, the significance of tea. You have to know what the significance of tea is in a Chekhov play, you know? So interestingly enough, my character was from a lower class than the family. There's a family, and I marry into the family. And so she can come off as a not so nice person. And I have to figure out why. Because if you're playing a not so nice person, you don't play, I'm not nice. You play, there's a problem. There's something going on inside, you know? So finally, and I couldn't understand, I felt like everybody in the play got my character but me. And then finally one day I asked some questions and a light bulb went off for how my person is. There was a time when I was waiting tables. And I noticed that the people who seemed to be really, really wealthy were really, really nice. You know, they were very patient. Oh, take your time. Oh, you know, and they tipped me very lavishly. But it was actually the people who had, you know, not so much money who would be like, come on, let's go. I mean, when are you gonna bring my drink? They would be very impatient and I realized this is the essence of my character. My character has married into a family that is wealthy, and they have a different perception of wealth. My character wants wealth very desperately. She's very ambitious. She wants to be more. And in her perception, if you have servants, you use them. Their job is to serve. And it just opened up a whole new thing for me. But before, I felt like I didn't understand the culture. So it was a great struggle for me. But that's what I struggle with the most. Yes, you're very welcome. Any more questions?
I don't know, you talked about this a lot, but actually my biggest problem with theater is the lines. It's like a block.
Okay.
And like, how do you have the patience? Like, that's my problem, is that I'm like, oh, I really need to learn these lines, but let's check out Facebook first. And you know, like,
No, yeah.
How do you get through it? How do you sit yourself down? And, you know, eventually it does click, but I need to expedite that process.
No, I'm totally with you. Now let me ask you this. Do you find that repetition helps you? That like when you actually go to rehearsal and let's say you're called that day and you have to work on the scene, do you find that when you walk away you know the scene more than when you first started?
I find that I know my lines better when I've discussed the scene as a whole with my director.
So it sounds like you need more information, you need a deeper connection with what's actually being said in order for you to absorb it. In that case, I would say you gotta call up your friend and say, let's have a discussion about my scene. Tell me, you know, you can even, if you have an actor friend, have them read the scene with you and take it question by question, line by line. Because what can happen sometimes in a professional setting is that the director might not have so much time to give to you as an actor. So you have to figure out ways to recreate your process outside of the rehearsal room. So I would say have a discussion with anybody who's willing to have a discussion with you about the play. My boyfriend is an actor. And he likes to run lines, and I don't like being the person that he has to run lines with. It's kind of boring, you know. And I'm gonna tell you something. And when I run my lines with him, he's like, "Are you gonna say it like that?" I'm like, exactly. I'm like, "Excuse me, you don't get the full performance. I'm just making sure I know my lines." You know what I mean? I don't know why I don't find it. Yeah, I don't know why. I'm just like, but you find somebody who. Because if I'm very honest with you, it sounds like when you're left to yourself, you probably don't do it. Okay, so you have to find somebody, make it fun. Say, hey, why don't we meet up in the park? Let's get some virgin daiquiris, make a picnic out of it. You know what I mean? Go to the beach and just walk it out. Because another thing that I would say is that you can actually, with a fellow actor, just keep reading the scene. Just keep reading the scene back and forth. And then when you feel like there's something you don't understand, stop. And then find however many questions you can, as many questions as you can about the line. Why don't you get it once we get to that point? And then open up a discussion with your friend. Okay. Wow.
Hi, I'm Selena.
Hi, Selena.
And I just wanted to ask, you were saying how you really are a detective when it comes to lines. And this semester I really have learned that you really have to research what you're going to be performing.
Yeah.
Did it take you a while to get to the point of digesting each line? Because I find that when I read a play, it'll be a line like that you just said, Black people unite. If I would have read that, I would have just, oh, it's the Black people unite.
I know what it means, yeah.
I would have never thought, well, why are they doing this? Why are they, did it take you a while to get to that point of like knowing which questions to ask?
I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. When I would sit down and I would watch an actor get up, and it is evident to me that their work is incredibly nuanced. It is incredibly specific. One of the things that I'm working on as an actor, and it's something that I've been working on since I left New World. David Quiet was always a teacher who drove us to specificity. You have to be specific. I have a director that's a part of the Steppenwolf theater company that Terrell works with, Tina Landau. She says, it's a very well-known saying, specificity, God is in the specifics. God is in the details, actually, is the saying. And so when I would sit down and I would watch this person and be like, oh my God, I want this, I instantly knew by seeing it that this comes from somebody taking the time to do their homework. Because if somebody gives a general performance, what they've done is they've taken the face value of the scene in the same way that I can say, I know what Black people unite means.